In the early 1990s, Las Vegas set out to reinvent itself. Long defined by gambling and nightlife, the city began experimenting with a new kind of attraction: roller coasters. Steel track wrapped around hotel towers, looped below glass domes, and raced above the Strip. Each one intended to generate publicity and attract attention. For a brief period, coasters became part of Las Vegas's identity. This is the story of those rides, the roller coasters that brought theme park thrills to Sin City. It was the early 1990s. Las Vegas was starting to explore the idea of family entertainment in a city known for its casinos and nightlife. Amid this effort, the Adventure Dome at Circus Circus emerged as a fully enclosed, climate-controlled theme park, where visitors could escape the desert heat while enjoying rides and attractions all year round. Opened in August 1993 as Grand Slam Canyon, the park was designed to resemble a southwestern canyon, complete with hand-painted cliffs, waterfalls, streams, and even life-sized animatronic dinosaurs. At the heart of this ambitious project was Canyon Blaster, the park's centerpiece roller coaster and the first true thrill coaster in Las Vegas, signalling the start of the 1990s coaster decade in the city. Canyon Blaster was designed by Aerodynamics, one of the leading coaster manufacturers of the time, and was a clone of their rolling X-Train coaster at South Korea's Everland theme park. When it opened, the coaster was immediately notable for its scale. A 94-foot tall indoor looping coaster with a 66-foot drop reaching speeds of 41 miles per hour. The ride featured two back-to-back vertical loops, a double corkscrew, and a winding helix that snaked through a man-made mountain at the centre of the park. With two 6-car trains seating 24 riders each, Canyon Blaster offered a classic Arrow Looper experience enhanced by the indoor setting, making it a unique attraction in a city more known for casinos than thrill rides. The ride experience begins in a simple station tucked inside the canyon, where riders board one of the two trains. As the train leaves the station, it takes a sharp right turn, enters a short tunnel, and begins its ascent up the chain lift hill. At 94 feet, the view from the top allows a glimpse of the park's interior, giving riders a sense of height and scale despite being indoors. The anticipation builds through a left turn, and then comes the 66-foot drop. Immediately following the descent, the train barrels through the coaster's signature elements, the back-to-back vertical loops that flip riders upside down twice in rapid succession, followed by a quick right turn leading into the double corkscrews. Finally, the train enters a high-speed helix, tunnelling inside the mountain before hitting the brake run. While the ride is relatively short, lasting about 1.5 minutes, the combination of loops, corkscrews, and tight turns, packed into a compact indoor environment, make for a surprisingly intense experience. Fans often note that Canyon Blaster feels faster and longer than it is, thanks to the close proximity of rock formations and park pathways that pass beneath and alongside the track. Canyon Blaster was originally the park's sole coaster, but as Adventure Dome expanded after a 1994 remodel, it was joined by Miner Mike, a smaller family-friendly roller coaster aimed at younger riders. Miner Mike operated until 2019 and offered a contrast to Canyon Blaster, reinforcing the park's strategy of appealing to a broad age range and offering something for everyone. While Miner Mike eventually closed, Canyon Blaster endured, outlasting many of its contemporaries in Las Vegas, including coasters and other 1990s attractions that struggled with attendance or maintenance challenges. The park itself has evolved over the years. Originally named Grand Slam Canyon, it was rebranded as Adventure Dome in 1997. The dome's striking pink-tinted glass covers over 35,000 square feet, allowing natural light to illuminate the rides, while keeping the climate comfortable year-round. This design proved crucial to the coaster's longevity, protecting it from the desert's summer temperatures that often caused other outdoor rides to close. Canyon Blaster has also undergone cosmetic updates, with its trains repainted numerous times. Despite these changes, the ride's layout and experience have remained largely untouched, a testament to Aerodynamics' solid engineering. Its placement within the park's central mountain means it continues to be a visual and thematic anchor of Adventure Dome, drawing attention from the moment guests enter the park. Canyon Blaster represents a pivotal moment in Las Vegas's amusement park history, a standout indoor looping coaster, and a ride that set the stage for numerous attractions that would follow in the 1990s and beyond. The opening of the MGM Grand Resort in December 1993 marked one of the most ambitious launches Las Vegas had ever seen. At the time, Las Vegas was actively experimenting with a new identity, one that positioned the city not just as an adult playground, but as a destination for families as well. The MGM Grand was the largest hotel in the world when it opened, a 5,000-room behemoth designed to dominate the southern end of the Strip. But what truly set it apart was what sat just beyond the casino floor, a full-scale theme park. Grand Slam Canyon had started the trend, but here the concept was pushed even further. MGM Grand Adventures was a 33-acre, movie studio-inspired theme park built alongside the resort, intended to give families a reason to stay on property, while parents gambled, dined, or saw shows. At a reported cost of $120 million, the park was never expected to rival Disneyland or Universal Studios. Instead, it was designed as a complementary attraction, an added layer meant to reinforce the MGM Grand as a complete entertainment destination. At the centre of MGM Grand Adventures was Lightning Bolt, the park's only true roller coaster. Lightning Bolt opened with the park in 1993 as a fully indoor family coaster designed and manufactured by Intamin. Located within the New York Street section of the park, the ride was heavily marketed as a fast-paced outer space adventure. Guests boarded trains inside a show building, climbed a modest lift hill, and travelled through darkened turns before concluding with a slow pass over a miniature model of the Las Vegas Strip at night. On paper, it was positioned as MGM Grand Adventure's headline thrill, but with a top speed of around 35 miles per hour and a height under 50 feet, Lightning Bolt was closer to a junior coaster than a headline attraction. Early guest reactions often compared it unfavourably to Space Mountain, noting its short length and lack of sustained thrills. For a city known for excess, the ride was the opposite. There was also a larger problem facing MGM Grand Adventures as a whole. While the park was elaborately themed, with multiple lands, shows, dark rides and water attractions, it struggled to define its audience. Southern California visitors, a major source of Las Vegas tourism, already had access to world-class theme parks. For them, MGM's offerings felt small and underwhelming. For adult Vegas tourists, the park was simply not a priority. In 1997, MGM made a pivotal decision. The park would be drastically downsized to make room for a new pool complex and convention centre, facilities that aligned far more closely with Las Vegas's core business. Nearly 40% of the park was removed. Several major attractions were closed permanently, and Lightning Bolt was dismantled and relocated to the northern edge of the remaining park footprint, where it was initially reinstalled with its original layout intact. But this move also gave Lightning Bolt a second life. Rather than leaving Lightning Bolt as it was, MGM soon chose to expand it. Aerodynamics was brought in to extend the coaster's layout, adding a second lift hill and dramatically increasing its scale. The ride's length more than doubled, growing from roughly 1,100 feet to around 2,400 feet. The new track was constructed over the Grand Canyon Rapids ride, creating a more complex multi-section layout. The result was an unusual hybrid coaster, part Intamin family ride, part Arrow expansion. Guests now experienced 2 lift hills, extended helixes, and a noticeably longer ride time. While still not extreme by thrill ride standards, the expanded Lightning Bolt was a clear improvement, finally offering something closer to what visitors expected from a roller coaster on the Las Vegas Strip. However, the park around it was already in decline. Attendance never met projections, and the park's operating model proved fundamentally flawed. Theme parks were far less profitable than casino gaming, and families spending time in the park were families not spending money on the casino floor. Safety concerns, shifting public sentiment, and high-profile incidents elsewhere in southern Nevada also accelerated the collapse of Las Vegas's family-friendly experiment. By 1998, MGM Grand Adventures was operating seasonally. In 2000, the park closed to the general public entirely. 2 years later, MGM officially announced its permanent closure, clearing the way for condominium towers, convention space, and later Topgolf. Lightning Bolt closed with the park. After its removal, the coaster was sold, with plans for relocation to Granite Park in Fresno, California. That project never materialized. The ride sat in storage for years, largely forgotten, before being quietly scrapped sometime after 2010. Lightning Bolt tells a much larger story. It was not just one of the Strip's earliest roller coasters, but a symbol of a brief moment when Las Vegas tried to become something it ultimately wasn't. MGM Grand Adventures did succeed in drawing attention to the resort during its early years, but it also demonstrated the limits of theme parks in a city built around adult entertainment. As you drive towards Las Vegas on Interstate 15, the desert stretches out for miles in every direction. Then just beyond the California-Nevada state line, something unexpected rises from the sand. A bright yellow ribbon of steel twists skyward, towering above a cluster of casinos that seem almost out of place against the surroundings. Long before you ever see the Strip, Desperado announces itself. Although Buffalo Bill's Resort and Casino sits just outside Las Vegas, its roller coaster belongs firmly in the city's thrill ride story. Built to capture the attention of millions of motorists driving between Southern California and Las Vegas, Desperado was never meant to be a local attraction. It was designed as a landmark, something so large and so visible that drivers would feel compelled to pull off the highway and stop. And in that sense, it followed the same logic as the Strip's coasters of the 1990s. Buffalo Bill's opened in 1994 as part of Gary Prim's ambitious vision for the state line. Rather than competing directly with the mega resorts of Las Vegas, Prim aimed to create a destination that blended gambling with family-friendly attractions. The resort leaned heavily into its Old West theming, with animatronics, arcades, and rides woven directly into the casino floor. The complex included a log flume, motion theatres, and a monorail connecting neighbouring properties. But the centrepiece, the attraction that defined the resort, was always the roller coaster. Desperado was designed by Aerodynamics. When it opened in August 1994, it was among the most extreme roller coasters ever built. Standing 209 feet tall with a 225-foot drop, it immediately gained global recognition and was later certified by Guinness as the world's tallest roller coaster in 1996. At a time when hypercoasters was still a new concept, Desperado was only the third of its kind ever constructed. The statistics alone were enough to command attention. With nearly 5,900 feet of track, Desperado was one of the longest roller coasters in the world, reaching speeds of up to 80 miles per hour and pulling close to 4 Gs. The ride experience began inside Buffalo Bill's Casino, where riders boarded one of 3 30-passenger trains. From there, the train slowly climbed a lift hill that rose directly through the roof of the casino, emerging into the open desert with sweeping views that stretched across miles of empty land. At the crest, riders raced into the signature drop, plunging into a dark tunnel at ground level, before exploding back into the sunlight at full speed. What followed was a long, fast layout that emphasized heightened speed over inversions. Desperado delivered multiple airtime moments, sweeping turns around the perimeter of the resort and passing through a giant foam mountain structure. The coaster even passed directly through the resort's entrance, diving over arriving guests before racing back toward the casino. At just under 3 minutes long, it was extreme even by Vegas standards. In its early years, Desperado was praised for its scale and novelty. For many visitors, it was their first experience on a hypercoaster, and its isolated desert setting only increased the sense of heightened speed. Over time, however, the ride developed a reputation for roughness. Arrow's trademark transitions, combined with years of wear, led to increasing criticism from enthusiasts, even as others defended its airtime and unique character. Operationally, Desperado was always somewhat inconsistent. Like many attractions at Buffalo Bills, it often ran seasonally or sporadically, particularly during quieter winter months. Still, it remained an unmistakable presence, visible for miles, looming over the highway, and impossible to ignore. The ride last operated to the public in 2019. In early 2020, Buffalo Bills closed during the COVID-19 pandemic, and while the casino eventually reopened, Desperado did not. Inspections, legal requirements, and shifting priorities left the coaster standing but not operating. By 2023, signage had been removed, and the entrance blocked off, signalling an uncertain future. Though the ride was reportedly maintained and cycled periodically, no reopening date was ever announced. Desperado doesn't sit outside the Las Vegas coaster story at all. It marks its outer boundary. Like many of Las Vegas's roller coasters, Desperado outlived the era that created it. Built during a period when casinos believed thrill rides could define their identity, it now stands as a relic of that time. In April of 1996, Las Vegas unveiled one of the most ambitious and controversial structures the city had ever seen. Rising 1,149 feet above the northern end of the Strip, the Stratosphere Tower was unlike anything Las Vegas had built before. Conceived by casino mogul Bob Stupak, the tower had faced years of opposition, financial uncertainty, and even a major fire during construction. Critics mocked it as Stupak's folly, questioning both its location and whether it would ever open at all. But on April 29, 1996, those doubts were momentarily silenced. More than 8,000 invited guests attended a lavish VIP gala as fireworks erupted from the tower. At midnight, the doors opened to the public, and visitors lined up for elevator rides offering breathtaking views of Las Vegas from heights never before accessible. Yet Stupak didn't want the Stratosphere to simply be an observation tower. He wanted something more. Something that screamed Las Vegas. As he famously put it, anybody can build a tower, but if you build a tower and put a roller coaster on top, now that's Las Vegasizing. And that's exactly what he did. Alongside the opening of the tower came two thrill rides perched near the very top. The first was Big Shot, an S&S space shot that blasted riders 160 feet up the tower's needle at over 4 Gs, instantly becoming the star attraction. The second was far more unusual, a roller coaster wrapped around the observation pod itself. Officially named the Let It Ride High Roller, it will be billed as the highest roller coaster in the world. Situated roughly 900 feet above the Las Vegas Strip, High Roller was marketed as the furthest coaster from dirt. Manufactured by Italian firm Structures and Machines Construction, it marked only the company's second completed coaster, following Hurricane at Playland Park in New York. The concept was undeniably bold. High Roller would encircle the tower's massive glass pod 3 times, giving riders panoramic views of Las Vegas, while dangling nearly 100 stories in the air. Executives promised it would be one of the scariest coasters in the world, with the height alone providing the thrill. In reality, the ride experience told a different story. High Roller featured a 9-car train, with over-the-shoulder restraints and an 865-foot-long track. Its top speed was just around 30 miles per hour, and the largest drop measured only about 20 feet. The coaster did not dive off the side of the tower, nor did it include inversions. Instead, it gently banked around the pod at angles of up to 32 degrees, completing 2 full circuits per ride cycle in under a minute. If it had been built at ground level, it would likely have been dismissed as a mild family ride or even kiddie coaster. But High Roller wasn't on the ground. It was nearly 1/5 of a mile in the air. Although a concrete platform sat beneath the track, it was hidden from view, giving riders the unnerving sensation that nothing separated them from the Strip far below. The views were spectacular, but visibility was often compromised by the track's tilt, the restraints, and other riders in the train. And while the ride looked dramatic from the ground, wrapping elegantly around the tower's crown, many guests stepped off feeling underwhelmed. Almost immediately, Big Shot overshadowed High Roller. Guests gravitated towards the explosive launch and freefall sensation of the space shot, while the roller coaster was often described as slow, bumpy, and lacking. Reviews reflected this divide. While the other Stratosphere rides would later receive strong praise, High Roller was consistently ranked near the bottom, and operational issues didn't help its reputation. Within its first week, a drive cylinder broke loose and crashed into the observation deck below, cracking safety glass and forcing a temporary shutdown. Later in 1996, 2 wheels detached from the train, causing a partial derailment. Riders were evacuated, and the ride was shut down again for inspection and re-engineering. Though no serious injuries ever occurred, High Roller became known for frequent closures. High winds, common at that altitude, would often shut the ride down entirely, sometimes for hours at a time. In 1997, less than a year after opening, the coaster underwent modifications in an attempt to improve the experience. Trains were shortened, seats were raised, and adjustments were made to make the ride feel faster and more exposed. Guests had asked for more speed and better views, but the changes didn't make much of a difference. As the years passed, High Roller became increasingly out of place. New thrill rides arrived at the top of the tower, including X-Scream in 2003 and Insanity in 2005. These attractions leaned fully into fear, dangling riders over the edge of the tower, or spinning them at high speeds hundreds of feet above the ground. Compared to them, High Roller felt tame. After nearly a decade of operation and roughly 4 million riders, the decision was made. In December 2005, High Roller closed permanently. The official explanation stated it had run its course. Behind the scenes, the real issue was cost. The ride needed more than $500,000 in refurbishments. Its hydraulics were outdated, maintenance demands were high, and even after repairs, it would still be the least popular attraction on the tower. Removing it, however, was no small task. Though the coaster had originally been lifted into place by crane during construction, dismantling it required a different approach. Working between 2 a.m. and 8 a.m. when the tower was closed to visitors, an 11-person crew used plasma cutting to slice the track into 367 3-foot sections, each weighing roughly 300 pounds. Every piece was loaded into carts and taken down by elevator. Over the course of about 45 days, more than 1,100 pounds of steel were carefully removed from the top of the tower. Ironically, the name would live on. In 2011, a new observation wheel opened at the Link Promenade, just off the strip. It was called the High Roller, but this time, the name belonged to something smoother, slower, and far more successful. The original High Roller remains a uniquely Las Vegas attraction. A roller coaster defined not by speed or drops, but by sheer elevation. It wasn't the thrill Stupak promised, but for nearly 10 years, it offered riders something no other coaster could. A view of Sin City while riding a roller coaster nearly 1,000 feet above the desert floor. When the Manhattan Express opened in January 1997, it arrived at a very particular moment in Las Vegas history. Just a year earlier, the High Roller at the Stratosphere had made headlines for putting a roller coaster on top of a tower, turning height and visuals into a selling point. Manhattan Express followed that same philosophy, but took it in a very different direction. Instead of rising above the strip, this coaster wrapped itself directly around it, becoming part of the city's skyline. Built as part of the New York Hotel and Casino, the ride was never intended to stand alone. From the outset, it was conceived as a moving piece of architecture, a bright red ribbon of steel weaving through a stylized Manhattan skyline. The hotel itself was a theatrical exaggeration of New York City, and the coaster was designed to embody the chaos, energy, and motion associated with it. Meant to be seen by millions of people walking and driving past on Las Vegas Boulevard. The ride was designed and built by Japanese manufacturer Togo, a company with a limited presence in North America. Its signature feature was a heartline twist into a dive loop, an inversion that rotated riders around their own centre of gravity before pulling them into a downward half loop. The element was heavily promoted before opening and positioned as the ride's defining innovation. At over 200 feet tall, Manhattan Express qualified as a hypercoaster, though it didn't fit the traditional mould. Instead of focusing purely on speed and massive drops, the layout blended height with inversions, an unusual choice that hinted at design compromise. The coaster needed to be tall enough to loom over the strip, but compact enough to fit atop the hotel's roof. From the start, it was a ride shaped as much by aesthetics and space constraints as it was designed for thrills. The ride experience reflected that balance. After leaving the station themed like a New York City subway platform, the trains climbed slowly up the lift hill, offering expansive views of Las Vegas. The first drop is relatively modest, before the coaster plunges into its larger 144-foot descent near the hotel's entrance. From there, the ride transitions into its second half, consisting of inversions and tighter elements, threading its way across the casino roof before diving back indoors above a themed version of Little Italy. It was an ambitious and visually striking design, but Manhattan Express struggled almost immediately. Within months of opening, the ride was shut down multiple times, after steel tension rods began snapping, triggering safety violations and forcing extensive inspections. These early problems didn't result in guest injuries, but they signalled a problem that would follow the coaster for years. That it was temperamental and difficult to maintain. Even after large-scale fixes, the damage to its reputation was already done. Operational issues weren't the only challenge. The coaster also developed a reputation for being rough, a perception not held by its original trains. Togo's over-the-shoulder restraints, combined with the ride's tight transitions and lateral forces, created a head-banging experience that many riders found uncomfortable. For casual visitors, the setting and views often overshadowed these issues. For enthusiasts, however, Manhattan Express became known less for its innovation and more for its aggressive ride experience. Despite these problems, the ride endured. It continued operating through the late 1990s and into the new millennium, gradually shifting from a headline attraction to a familiar fixture of the Strip. In 2004, Premier Rides began making changes, starting with the installation of magnetic brakes. 2 years later, new trains replaced the original Togo rolling stock, noticeably improving ride comfort and smoothing out some of the coaster's rougher parts. In 2007, the ride was rebranded simply as the roller coaster, possibly to distance itself from its troubled early years. Another rebrand followed in 2013, when it became the Big Apple Coaster, reinforcing its identity as part of the hotel's overall theme. Like many rides at the time, the Big Apple Coaster briefly embraced novelty in an attempt to stay relevant. In 2018, a virtual reality experience was added, allowing riders to wear headsets and chase aliens through a digital version of Las Vegas. The experiment mirrored a broader industry trend, but it proved short-lived. While visually impressive, the VR overlay did little to address the ride's core criticisms, and the feature was eventually removed. More changes came in 2021, when the coaster received a second entirely new generation of trains from Premier Rides. These skyrocket-style trains replaced rigid over-the-shoulder restraints with lap bars and flexible comfort collars, dramatically altering how forces were felt by riders. The layout itself remained untouched, but guest feedback shifted almost immediately. What had once been described as punishing was now considered manageable, even enjoyable by comparison. Today, the Big Apple Coaster occupies a unique place in Las Vegas history. It is the last Togo-designed roller coaster still operating in North America, a hypercoaster with inversions wrapped around a casino, and a reminder of a period when the Strip experimented boldly with thrill rides. It was never the greatest execution of that idea, but unlike many of its contemporaries, it adapted rather than disappeared. The Big Apple coaster survived by changing. Its longevity isn't the result of perfection, but persistence. A ride that outlasted its problems by evolving just enough to remain part of the skyline it was built to define. In the spring of 2000, Las Vegas added another thrill ride to its growing roster of roller coasters along the Strip, Speed the Ride. The previous decade had already seen a variety of coasters appear along the Strip, each with its own approach. Some relied on theming, others on dramatic views or unusual location. This new coaster promised something different: raw speed. Built at the Sahara Hotel and Casino, it was designed to breathe new life into the aging hotel, offering guests a dose of high-octane excitement right in the heart of the resort. The Sahara itself was an institution on the Northern Strip. Opening in 1952 with a modest 240 rooms, the resort quickly expanded to accommodate its growing popularity. By the late 1990s, the hotel had become somewhat overshadowed by newer mega-resorts like the Mirage and MGM Grand. A major $100 million renovation in 1995 had modernised much of the property, and part of the Sahara's strategy to draw new audiences was the addition of the NASCAR Cafe. Modelled on the success of Planet Hollywood, Hard Rock Cafe and ESPN Zone, the venue was a sprawling 75,000 square foot attraction, featuring a full-service restaurant, arcade and racing-themed displays, including a 3-ton replica of a stock car and nearly 20 full-size vehicles throughout the space. Central to the experience was the roller coaster, a 1,365-foot steel LIM shuttle loop designed to thrill racing fans and adrenaline seekers alike. The coaster was built by Premier Rides. It was the first of their shuttle coasters to include a vertical loop, and its linear induction motor launches offered an intense acceleration with no moving parts, instead using electromagnets to accelerate the train along the track. Speed's layout was intense but deceptively compact. The ride began in the NASCAR Cafe itself, where riders were shot from 0 to 45 miles per hour in under 2 seconds, banking to the left and entering an underground tunnel alongside Las Vegas Boulevard. From there, the train swept through a 92-foot vertical loop, before a second LIM launch boosted it from 35 to 70 miles per hour, shooting through the 190-foot Sahara marquee. After circling the resort's domed entrance, the train then climbed the ride's signature 224-foot vertical spike, pausing briefly at the top before reversing course to travel the entire layout backward, including a return through the loop and tunnel. With a single train accommodating 24 riders, the entire experience lasted just 45 seconds, but in that time, passengers reached nearly 3.5 Gs and experienced a series of launches, tunnels and inversions, unlike any other roller coaster in the city at the time. Though Speed delivered a high-octane ride, its operations were not without issues. Within months, power consumption concerns led the operators to limit launches, sometimes leaving riders waiting 15 minutes or longer between runs. Additional effects, such as fog machines in the tunnels, were quietly discontinued, reducing some of the impact that early riders had experienced. Even so, the ride remained the fastest and most intense coaster in Las Vegas for several years, a standout among the otherwise modest thrill offerings in the city. Entry to the ride was integrated within the NASCAR Cafe experience. Tickets started at $6 on opening day, rising to $10 in later years, with all-day passes available. Despite its initial popularity, the ride's fate was tied closely to the Sahara's declining fortunes. Rumours began circulating in 2008 that Speed might be removed as the hotel considered further renovations, and operational inconsistencies meant that some guests never experienced the ride as it was intended. The coaster operated for the last time on May 1, 2011, 2 weeks before the Sahara Hotel itself closed. Dismantling began in April 2012, with the intention of relocating the ride to a small shopping centre across the street from Mandalay Bay. The new layout was planned to reuse as much of the original track as possible, with some adjustments to fit the space. However, the project stalled, leaving Speed in storage for years. Some sections were eventually scrapped, while the rest remained in place, awaiting a return that never came. By the time Speed the Ride closed in 2011, Las Vegas was no longer the landscape of roller coasters it had briefly been. The coaster's end marked the close of a time when casinos experimented with thrill rides as part of their identity. As the Strip moved towards luxury experiences, high-end dining, and immersive shows, focus shifted away from adrenaline-driven coasters and toward attractions that could draw crowds in new ways. Today, Las Vegas still offers thrills, from zip lines to towering freefall experiences, but Speed's dismantling and its ongoing storage stand as a reminder that the era of landmark Las Vegas roller coasters has quietly come to an end. By 2014, Adventure Dome had already carved out its place among the thrills in Las Vegas, with Canyon Blaster leading the way. But Circus Circus wanted to inject new energy into the park and bring a fresh adrenaline rush to its guests. The result was El Loco, a steel coaster from S&S Worldwide, which opened on February 18, 2014, marking the last major thrill coaster to debut in Las Vegas. The addition replaced the Rim Runner Flume, a ride that had entertained visitors since the park's early years, but was removed in 2013 to make room for this new attraction. From the moment the announcement was made in early 2013, anticipation for El Loco was high. Industry publications and thrill-seeker communities speculated that the coaster would feature the signature Beyond Vertical drop, typical of the El Loco model, with some sources reporting angles as extreme as 120 degrees. In the end, the coaster's first drop was 90 degrees, but that didn't diminish the intensity or the excitement. Circus Circus embraced the indoor setting to craft a ride that would push the limits of space and design, taking advantage of a compact footprint to create a densely packed, high-intensity experience. Construction of El Loco began in mid-2013, with the track arriving on site in September. By December 12th, the final section was installed, and the coaster was ready to begin testing before the official opening in February 2014. The ride reused some elements of Rim Runner's infrastructure, including the station, but the track itself was entirely new, painted in a striking yellow with black supports, weaving its way through the pink dome. With a total length of 1,300 feet and a height of 90 feet, the coaster promised a rapid-fire ride, packed into just over a minute. El Loco's layout is a compact but exhilarating twist on the Wild Mouse concept. Riders ascend a quick chain lift to the 90-foot peak, only to be launched down the drop at a vertical angle. The coaster features 2 dive loops and a series of high bank turns, including outward-leaning curves that are a signature of this ride type. Onboard audio systems play a custom soundtrack, blending hip-hop, rock and Latin beats, adding to the immersive and chaotic energy of the experience. What makes El Loco unique is how it delivers intensity in such a confined space. Riders often highlight the coaster's generous hang time on the inversions, particularly the final dive loop. Despite the ride's short duration, about 70 seconds, El Loco manages to pack in moments of airtime, hang time, and high-speed maneuvers that make it feel longer and far more intense than the numbers suggest. Reception to El Loco was overwhelmingly positive. Before its opening, USA Today listed it as one of the 10 most anticipated rides of 2014. Fans praised the ride for its inventive layout and the sheer fun of its elements, noting that the coaster's compact footprint didn't limit its thrills. Some minor criticisms focused on the ride's brief duration and occasional slow spots, where the train lost momentum. However, these concerns were dwarfed by the coaster's standout features. The insane first drop, the punchy inversions, and the outwardly banked turns. Many enthusiasts have described the ride as a must-do when visiting Las Vegas. El Loco also stands as a testament to Circus Circus's commitment to keep Adventure Dome relevant, in a city that had largely shifted away from family-oriented attractions. While other Las Vegas resorts increasingly focused on Cirque du Soleil shows fine dining, and adult entertainment. El Loco represented an investment in fun for all ages. Over a decade after its debut, El Loco remains standing, the final thrill coaster to open in Las Vegas. It complements Canyon Blaster by providing a modern, intense and compact alternative that shows how indoor coasters can deliver big thrills in tight spaces. Its combination of inversions, vertical drops, hang time and music ensures that El Loco is not just a ride, but an experience, one that continues to define the Adventure Dome as the city's go-to indoor amusement park. Roller coasters were never meant to define Las Vegas, but for a time, they helped shape it. Some were short-lived, others lasted longer than anyone expected, and a few still stand today. Together, they mark a time when resorts looked beyond casinos and shows, using speed, height, and theme park-style thrills to draw attention, daring to chase thrills in unexpected places.